Hello, everyone. Are we all still singing? Give a big round of applause for Rose and Krew. Come on down. Congratulations, you guys. It's been a long time, a long journey for this film.
It has, yes. I started writing it 10 years. I keep saying 10 years ago, but it might give or take. Around about 10 years ago. Yeah, and almost back in New York when I was living in Chelsea. I had a very favourite cafe down on 9th Avenue, and I would go there all dressed up, however I was trying to feel to write. And it's been a long journey.
So, tell everybody where the genesis for the idea came from and how it came out of you the way it did.
So my dad has always been very vocal for his daughters to go out there and be successful and put your heart into it and go for it and you can do it, And so I was doing plays in Sydney in Belvoir, which is I don't know, some of you are Australian, but it's kind of off-Broadway plays, and I was auditioning and I really wasn't getting the parts that I felt like I should have been getting, and I felt like I wasn't being taken seriously, and I was trying to figure out success. And because my dad was like, you can be successful, you can go for it, and I was like, what is that? What does that look like, and how do I know if I've got it? And so that's where I started writing from. I started to write to figure out what success was and what it looked like. And very quickly I came to the conclusion that the answer to my question, it looks like Dolly Parton. Which is a real shame. So that's where I started from.
The music is incredible. I just kept thinking, how much money does it cost? And did you have to talk to Dolly, write her a letter? How does that work?
Over to my executive producer over here.
We got in contact with Dolly's manager in 2015, and Danny Nozell, who is without his support, we wouldn't be here tonight. We wouldn't have made the movie. That was the biggest one of the biggest hurdles. But really, probably the biggest hurdle was getting the music. And I got in contact with him, and I was shooting a film in Atlanta, and I was 6 months pregnant, and I drove from Atlanta to Nashville, Tennessee, and I met him at his headquarters. He's worked with Dolly for over a decade. He kind of relaunched her career in the sort of mid-2000s, early 2000s. And I gave him the script and I pitched the idea and I said, this is a wing and a prayer and a Hail Mary, but if you can, we have $8.50 to make this movie. It's obviously not enough to get the songs, but if there's any way we can get your support. And he did. He came through. So that was the sort of beginning of that journey with Danny and with Dolly. And Krew met Dolly finally. She read the script. Obviously, she had to approve it and all those sorts of things. And then at South by Southwest in March of this year, we premiered the movie, and Krew finally.
Okay,
Dolly.
over to you, Krew.
It's not lost on me that I've spent so much of my life thinking about a total stranger. It's weird. And so we were in South by and we had our world premiere, and Dolly was going to be there launching a book and doing a concert, and so we knew that we were going to go and get VIP tickets, but we didn't know anything else. And so I was sitting in my cosy, it's so Australian, in my wet cosy, on the hotel room, trying to do Instagram, trying to get better at that. And Danny texts our producer, Jess Carrera, and says, be at the stage door, 30 minutes. And I was like, a wet cosy! I'm in my wet cosy! I was planning to get really dolled up. So anyway, and then he also said, bring Kenny, which is Daniel Webber. So I slapped on an outfit. within 30 minutes, I was standing in front of Dolly Parton, and she grabbed my hands and she jumped up and down and said, "You played me, you played me." And I was like, "Oh my goodness." And she was, well, she kept saying, "You're beautiful, and I was like, "Oh, like I can scrub up." I can. And she was just nothing but heaven, and she loves the film, and she's tweeted about it, and she's so behind it. And then she looked at me and she said, "I'll see you." And I was like, and she was like, "You crying, Angel? You crying?" Because I was thanking her, saying, "Thank you for letting me share my story through your story." And she was wiping away my tears, and there was like a photographer going, "Va-boom, va-boom, va-boom." And I was like, "Are you getting this?" She's wiping away my tears. And she was, you know what, she was just beyond heaven and kind, and like met my energy. And yeah, if you get a chance to meet your idols, do it.
Wow. Were you a fan of Dolly Parton before any of this started? What did you know about Dolly and Kenny?
I mean, I was, because she is who she is. I think I identified with myself with her. You know, that sounds like a really overt thing to say, but that she's an entertainer, and she's a singer, and she's a dancer, and she's an actress, and she is a businesswoman. And I kind of always felt like I had a bit of that side of me, and she's, you know, got an entire empire. So I really appreciated her, and she is the only person, Rose always says, she's the only person that everyone in the world can kind of agree on. And
the thing that's fascinating about her is she is all those things, and she's still a mystery. Yes. She's a mystery. Yes. Even when you're up this close to her. Yes. And that to me is just fascinating. It's such an interesting source of inspiration to still, you know, to have this iconic figure who is still essentially so unknown in so many ways, but yet so available and so vulnerable in others.
Before we go any further, Rose, I just have to say you were friggin' amazing in the movie. It took me quite a while to realise. I kept going, is it? Oh my God, it can't be.
And when did the penny drop?
I'm not sure. I just realised at some point, oh my God, it's you. Like, how did that come about?
That was Krew's idea.
And how was it for you to rock up as Elvis?
Couldn't have been more fun. It was so fun. It was so fun. It was such a delight and such a pleasure to just disappear into this character, beyond just Elvis, but this kind of, again, like quite a mysterious character who sort of becomes this, you know, real representation for Red in her head and in her heart and in her memory of those people who shut you down, and how it can just cause this deep well of kind of grief in you. And it was fascinating. It was great. It was
So Krew, tell us the story.
Like,
at what point did you go, "Hey, Rose, would you like to play Elvis?"
Well, I think as actors, actresses, you want to play everything. You really do. You want to, like, I even joked recently going, "I can play a cat. I can," like, you that show in Queensland. Didn't get the job. But you want to experience.
Waiting to hear back.
I know, they didn't call me. You want to play everything. You want to try everything. That's why you take up the craft, because you want to experience other people's journeys. And so I always thought, you know, what would it be like to play a man and be in a man's shoes, or a woman who wants to get their kicks dressing as a man, or, you know, there's such a big
or a woman, or a person born a woman who identifies as a man. Or, you know,
it's like an endless kind of exploration, which is so cool. And so I said to Rose, "Well, maybe, how do you feel about doing that?" And she was like, "I love that. I would love that."
And I look like Elvis.
And she looks like Elvis. I mean, she does. She kind of does.
That's really why I got the job.
But Elvis is beautiful, and there's not that she's the most beautiful person I know. So,
and what was great about it was that you really didn't have to explain anything about Elvis and gender and whatever. Like, it was just everybody was impostering everybody else anyway. So it really wasn't even.
The world of the Copy Club is very much a transformative sort of island where, you know, that was the sort of the idea of the place, was that it was this sort of sacred kind of place that people go to be who they identify as, who they want to be. And that was something, we discussed a lot as the script was evolving.
And theme, I mean, the theme, such a heavy theme of the film is identity. And although Kenny and Dolly are living as Kenny and Dolly, you know, we're all doing that in some degree in our lives, especially with social media and all the different filters that you can put on, and who are you with your parents versus who you are with your new friends versus who you are with your old friends. You know, it's constantly evolving. And if anything, I sort of hope that it reminds people just to check in with your identity. And it's, you know, that little kind of, it's like a little piece of artwork that's constantly changing and evolving. And I think sometimes we forget that it's changing, and we forget to tap back into it and go, is this my true authentic self? Is this who I want to be at the moment? And make sure that you're just a little reminder.
When you guys first talked about it and you created the company Dollhouse, and Gracie and Shannon and Jess are part of that, did you always know Gracie was going to direct? How did you all figure out what your involvement was going to be?
Yeah, well, Gracie was along the journey for so many years prior to us, before her jumping on it. But it was sort of just perfect timing. She was still doing other projects and sort of flexing her muscles as a director, and it just worked out so beautifully that we were like, of course you've got to direct this. And she's like, of course I've got to do this. And so it just it was just so great. And she's such an auteur, and as you probably saw, visually, she's been inspired by El Malvador type, very strong colour palette. I think there's one pink top that gets through, which still jars her a little bit, but everything else is, the heavy, the oranges and the yellows and the turquoise, and it's very thought out and very specific.
So, I mean, it's been 7 years since the company started, and you probably thought the movie would have been made a long time ago, but the irony is you had to wait for COVID, which is the opposite to most people. So tell us how it came together. It sounded like a very quick, maybe we can all do this.
Yes, the stars really aligned. Bobby and I were in Australia. He was shooting 9 Perfect Strangers, and Gracie kind of lined up perfectly with her schedule. She's been doing back-to-back. Otherwise, she'd be here. She's just working constantly as a director. So and at that time, Australia was a real sanctuary. There was no COVID there. It had been completely locked down. This was in mid-2020. And we managed to quickly rustle up $8.50 and shot this film in the Northern Rivers, and it was a Hail Mary for sure, and it was bumpy, but we had an incredible crew, an incredible cast, and it was a everyone was there because they loved the piece, and we could get everybody there because nobody else was doing anything at that point. There was really no production at all around the world at that point. It was sort of the middle of the whole thing, really. Yeah.
Did you write the Neil Diamond character knowing Bobby liked Neil Diamond, or it was before you decided who was cast in that role?
No, I did write it as a different character, and it was at some point that he read it, and I think he said to you, he was like, "Baby, I could do this if it was like Neil Diamond," or something like that, and I was like, Neil Diamond? Yeah, what's that old guy saying? And then I really got into it, and then I went deep, and I was like, wow, I love this guy so much. He's so great. And so I rewrote it for Bobby, but not assuming that he would do it because he's a popular guy, Broadway Bobby. And I was so honoured and excited that he got on board so quickly, and he's just so good.
So it wasn't like an assumption that he'd better help you, Rose, or...
Absolutely. I was like, what? No, but it's true because in the cast of this sort of nostalgic look at American music with through Dolly, through Kenny, Neil Diamond is another, obviously this iconic representation of American, huge cultural stars, musical stars, and we were down to the wire to get some of the licensing on some of those songs. So that was pretty like white knuckling it to the end if that was going to come through. And
Was that another Dolly situation where somebody had to go talk to Neil
oh,
Diamond?
the web of the music world is really an extraordinary experience navigating that in terms of who owns what, for how long, in what country, in what city, in what state, for how. It's like, it's an extraordinary, and we had such support from Danny Nozell and from Dolly. As I said, we wouldn't have made the movie without them.
Wow. So what were some of the challenges of, you finally got your movie together and you're all there, and there's COVID, even though in Australia at that time it wasn't too bad. Talk a little bit about just that being part of the equation, or was it?
We really did genuinely, I think just at the end of you had to be swabbed. Yeah, we were just doing temperature checks. And then the day after we finished shooting, the Queensland border shut and it all ramped up again. So we really did sneak in strangely under the wire. Everyone just threw down and, it attracted such a, I guess it attracted the right people, which is Cassie Hanlon, who did all their hair and makeup and the wigs. She did Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And so she read it and she was like, there's no way I'm not doing that movie, because it's such a exploration for her, and it's not just like a Dick Jean, it's not just like basic makeup. And then also Tim Chappell, who did all the costumes, also did Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So he was also in a similar boat going,
you can see a little bit of the inspiration there with Tim Chappell.
Right. I mean, they're both just such creatives, and they're so good at minimal budget. But it almost makes it more creative because they don't have endless amounts of money, which sometimes I think bigger movies can get trapped in. Going, I could do anything. And we had the same scenario. Our borders were shut, so we couldn't... in the old days, it was like, who do we want around the world? Whereas this was like, who's in New South Wales? So which Daniel Webber was, and we were so lucky, and it was so great just to have him as... I think you'll agree he does a pretty good Kenny Rogers, and it's very convincing. Dolly and Red's possible love affair, which... we wanted to make sure that we got that right, that everybody went on that journey. So yeah, Bobby and Rose were there, so it all kind of just worked out.
And we were just talking earlier about how for you two being, almost like best friends for many, many years, how cool it is when you get to be in the same room. What's it like when you're all together on a set, like with Gracie and you and Bobby and you and, the rest of the crew?
I mean, for me, it was so relaxing. Yeah, it's like, people are like, what's it like kissing Rose Byrne? I was like, it's kind of like kissing myself. Really.
No, it is. It's a very, we've been best mates since we were 13 years old, so meeting at high school. And if anything, it was just emotional, but that it was getting made.
Yeah.
That was like a huge just achievement in and of itself after 10 years of Krew and us trying to get it done, and her writing it and us actually producing it. So it was that part of it was obviously incredibly special to us. But actually doing the work was, kind of effortless. I mean, it's just that shorthand you have with your old friends that it's really fun, and it was just fun and silly, and we just have the same sense of humor. It was just fun and ridiculous, and we've done one other project together on the ABC in like the mid-90s where we also played lovers. So that's what we do. And that's the way it's going to be.
I mean, it's hard to imagine you wouldn't have fun standing around on a set looking at each other.
You can say it's hard to
Dolly,
imagine you guys
Kenny,
not being lovers.
Elvis. No. In all those costumes with all of you just standing around like that.
I mean, I had so many pinch me moments, particularly when Danny Minogue was on set.
Yeah.
I just lost my marbles. I've only got starstruck one other time with Sally Field, but I didn't actually talk to her because I was so starstruck. But with Danny Minogue, I was like, is she here? Is she here? Like, she's in the truck. And she was such a champ and she's an Aussie Aussie icon coming up and doing that little cameo. And but yeah, I mean, I remember just looking at Bob, like standing outside. We're in Australia, all the trailers, and like Bob is sitting there rolling a cigarette, and then Rose is coming out. It was just like bizarre, going, oh, I made them all do this. But no, grateful.
Well, what did you, without getting too deep, I mean, going through that journey as a writer, as an actress, how do you feel about your career today and who you are and what you want?
Jenny.
Oh no, I feel pretty. I feel pretty in my boots these days. This was my first baby, and I've since had 3 kids. So I think that really grounds you and makes you, what is it? I guess makes you realize that success is just within yourself, and success is my dad being able to tell me to go out and be successful, and things like that.
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was so cute when we were at
What she said.
When we were at the South by Southwest at the premiere of the movie, and Krew's dad was there, who's been a big champion of the movie. And, we did a Q&A afterward, and it was completely silent. And then, someone stood up and was like, "So how did you, get started on the movie?" And Krew was like, "Hi, Dad." Which was really, really cute.
Yeah, he kicked it off. But yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, like, kind of just be the best version of yourself, and I guess what the movie is. But how do I feel? I feel pretty in my boots. I feel pretty empowered, and I just want to keep making more stuff, and not acting and writing and kind of doing all the things. But golly, it's hard.
Well, I think after this experience, I'm sure I'm not the only one in here that thinks that, we're going to be seeing a lot more of you everywhere. And just congratulations. And I know everyone here will be spreading the word about the film too. It's really all of you. It's a testament. It's great.
Thank you so much.